Chosen by God. You didn't get here by chance. You didn't click on this video out of distraction. There's an invisible summons that has guided your steps to this moment. Something greater than your own will has brought you here. Because there's a spiritual truth that needs to be revealed. The attacks you faced weren't against your weakness, but against your promise. They didn't just try to tear down your life. They tried to silence what God planted within you. And I want you to understand this deeply. The weight you carry isn't the weight of a failure. It's the weight of someone who was marked in spirit before they were even born. There are marks on you that can't be erased by time, by people's words, or by life circumstances. These marks were engraved by God Himself. And that's precisely why the enemy has risen against you with such fury. Listen, no one wastes weapons on something that has no value. No one organizes attacks against what doesn't threaten the system. If the struggles were intense, it's because your destiny is powerful. You felt the weight of loneliness. You felt the pain of rejection. You felt the coldness of doors that closed in front of you without explanation. But none of this was coincidence. Every silence you faced was a divine code saying, I am still in control. Have you noticed? Many times you tried to defend yourself, tried to justify yourself, tried to explain to people who couldn't understand what God was doing in you. And still, they didn't listen. They didn't believe. They judged you by appearances. But here's the revelation. Heaven doesn't need an audience to validate who you are. Heaven has already decided who you are. God raised you in silence, not in the noise of approval, not in the heat of applause, but in the solitude where no one saw you. He strengthened you. Perhaps you feel like Joseph, thrown into a cistern by those who should have been your brothers. Perhaps like David, forgotten in the field while the others were presented before the prophet. Perhaps like Esther, hiding until the exact time of your revelation. The pattern is the same. Men try to erase, but God writes in letters of fire what no one can erase. And you need to hear this. This battle was not to destroy you. It was to reveal you. This silence was not God's absence. It was God's strategy. His silence was proof of His trust in you. Because only those who are trustworthy can endure silence without straying. Only those who are mature can get through dark nights without selling their faith. And you did. Look back. See everything that could have knocked you down and didn't. See everything that could have paralyzed you and didn't. See all the times you thought, I can't take it, and yet you're here. This is not weakness. This is a testament to strength. You are living proof that hell has not won, and here is a prophetic revelation for you to keep in your heart. The same ones who tried to bring you down will have to watch you rise. But not because you sought revenge, but because the glory of God cannot be hidden. The silence that surrounded you was the womb of a new season. You were being born in secret. Just as a seed needs dark earth before bursting into life, you needed this time of hiding before blossoming. And today the Spirit whispers to your heart, you were not abandoned, you were prepared. It was not punishment, it was preparation. It was not failure, it was formation. It was not oblivion, it was hiding. And here, in this moment, you are being called to believe that nothing that happened was lost. Every tear was counted, every night was recorded, every prayer was heard. And if you still doubt, listen carefully. The same God who saw Joseph in prison, who saw Elijah in the cave, who saw Daniel in the tomb, was the same God who saw you in your silence. And now He announces, the time for being prostrate is over. I am lifting you up. You have not been knocked down. You have been lifted up in silence. What God is about to reveal in you will be greater than anything they have attempted against you. You know the taste of rejection well. It's like an invisible cut that doesn't bleed on the outside, but burns on the inside. It's the kind of wound that doesn't show up on medical exams, but that scars the heart like a fire burning silently. You've been to places where you should have been celebrated, but were ignored. You've entered environments where you expected acceptance, but found coldness. And perhaps at times you've thought, is there something wrong with me? Listen carefully. There was nothing wrong with you. The rejection wasn't evidence of your failure. It was proof of your difference, because what is rare always frightens. That which carries spiritual weight always disturbs those who prefer to remain light, shallow, and superficial. your depth disturbed, your spiritual sensitivity disturbed, your quiet brilliance disturbed those still trapped in the darkness. And how did they react? They tried to bring you down, not physically, but emotionally. They tried to silence you with harsh words. They tried to make you believe you were less than you really are. But the truth is this: when heaven chooses someone, the earth reacts with resistance. The spiritual world recognizes the mark placed upon you, and people, often without even realizing it, become instruments of opposition. That's why you were rejected by people who should have supported you. That's why doors closed for no apparent reason. That's why you were alone when you needed companionship most. The pain of rejection isn't just social, it touches the soul. It makes you doubt yourself. It makes you question even God's purpose. How many times have you gone to bed wondering, did I make this all up? Is this voice I hear in prayer just my imagination? Is this calling I feel real? And God's silence seemed to increase the questions. You prayed and received no immediate answer. You cried out and it seemed like heaven was closed. And all the while, voices around you said, "See, you're nothing special. You won't make it. You're not called." But pay attention. God's silence was never abandonment. God's silence was strategy. The farmer doesn't speak to the seed every day. He puts it in the ground and waits. He knows the seed is alive even when it seems dead. So too, God knew you were alive even when it seemed invisible. He knew your faith was being strengthened even when it seemed fragile. And you kept going. Even when you were rejected, you kept going. Even when you were misunderstood, you didn't give up. Even without applause, you kept going. This is strength. This is courage. This is authentic faith. Those who live for human approval can't endure the desert, but those who live for divine purpose go through rejection as part of the process. And the Spirit of God tells you today, every rejection was protection. Every silence was preparation. Every tear was watered in the soil of your victory. No longer cry for what didn't work out. No longer blame yourself for those who didn't stay. No longer lament the doors that closed, because it wasn't you who lost. It was they who lost the opportunity to walk with someone who carries fire from heaven in their bones. You were separated, and being separated hurts, but it also means being preserved. The isolation you felt was the hiding place where God kept you. You weren't abandoned. You were kept. You weren't rejected by chance. You were redirected by destiny. And when you look back, you realize the hands that pushed you out of certain places were actually pushing you into God's will. They tried to knock you down, but every push that knocked you down was used by God to position you closer to your true identity. So don't carry the pain of rejection as a curse any longer. It is, in fact, the mark of your election. You need to understand this clearly. The scenarios that seemed like defeat were not the end. They were training. They were secret rooms where heaven shaped your spiritual structure for what was to come. How many times have you thought, everything I touched went wrong? Every door I knocked on closed. Everyone I trusted left me. But it wasn't true. You weren't losing. You were being polished. Just as gold doesn't shine when it's still mixed with impurities, you needed to pass through the fire to reveal your true essence. Just as wine doesn't become precious on the first day of harvest, you needed to be crushed for your fragrance to be released. Just as clay doesn't become a useful vessel without the potter's steady hands, you needed to feel the pressure to become what God already saw in you. You didn't fail. You were formed. And that changes everything. See, the enemy tried to convince you that loneliness was proof of abandonment, but God used loneliness as a training room for your intimacy with Him. As you cried in the silence of the night, heaven noted each tear like seeds that would germinate in due time. The world tried to tell you that closed doors were a sign you weren't good enough. But every closed door was a redirection. God closed what needed to be closed because He knew if you entered through those doors, you would be deviating from the greater plan. And those people who left your life, you suffered because of that. But today, looking with spiritual eyes, you can see they weren't capable of carrying the weight of your next station. God didn't allow them to stay because your calling is too great to be limited by those who can't see beyond the natural. You weren't rejected. You were protected. You weren't forgotten. You were hidden. You didn't fail. You were formed. All of this is preparation. And preparation doesn't happen in front of the crowds. Preparation happens behind the scenes. The spotlight wasn't on you, but the eyes of heaven always were. Think of the great men and women used by God. Moses was prepared in the desert for 40 years before leading the people. David was prepared by tending sheep alone before facing Goliath. Joseph was prepared in prison before ruling in the palace. And you? The desert you crossed was training. The silence you endured was training. The rejection you experienced was training. Because before entrusting you with visibility, God needed to teach you invisibility. Before giving you influence, He needed to solidify obedience in you. Before giving you recognition, He needed to work on your identity. Preparation is an invisible but indispensable process. And if you are listening to this message, it's because you have already gone through the most difficult phases of this process. You are no longer in the land of failure. You are in the fertile soil of completed preparation. And listen carefully. No one prepared by heaven ends up small. No one shaped by God ends up wasted. Everything you've experienced is about to be rewarded in public. They tried to knock you down, but while they thought you were fallen, God was adjusting your posture so you could rise even stronger. When they looked at you, they saw failure. But when heaven looked at you, it saw formation. And heaven's gaze is what defines your story. Stop blaming yourself for what happened. Stop repeating in your mind, I didn't succeed, I wasn't enough, I failed. These words don't describe you. They don't come from God. Heaven's voice over you is clear. You didn't fail. You were formed. And each time this truth enters your heart, new courage will be born within you. You will realize you were more prepared than you imagined. You will understand that even the days of silence were building something powerful. And you will see that nothing was lost. It was all purpose. You didn't fail, you were formed. What seemed like defeat was God preparing you for a victory greater than you ever dreamed. The beginning of the prophetic turning point. Have you ever noticed that the dawn is always darkest before the sun rises? It's as if the darkness tries to hold on to the last thread of dominion, but it can't stop the dawn. The same is true in your life. The hardest time you've ever faced was a harbinger that something new was already being born. You endured rejection. You traversed the silence. You were formed in the hidden. And now, even if you don't fully realize it yet, signs of a prophetic turning point have already begun to move around you. Maybe they're not fireworks. Maybe they're not applause. But they are small openings, small confirmations, small signs that heaven is repositioning you. An unexpected favor. A word that arrived at just the right time. A door that opens when you no longer had the strength to knock. A comfort that appears without your asking. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. You need to discern the signs. Because the same God who remained silent while you were being molded now begins to whisper, I am ready to lift you up. The turning point doesn't begin when everyone sees it. The turning point begins within you, when you decide to believe that there is still a future, even after everything you've been through. The turning point happens when you lift your head in the midst of the storm and declare, I still believe, I still hope, I still follow. They thought they had defeated you. They thought their harsh words would silence you. They thought the closed doors would paralyze you. But the turning point begins precisely there, the moment you refuse to give up. Remember, the cross seemed like defeat. But 3 days later, the resurrection proved it was victory. So too in your life. What seemed like the end was, in fact, the beginning of a new story. And this new story will not be written in secret. It will be written in front of those who doubted. It will be written in the presence of those who laughed at your pain. It will be written so that everyone knows that heaven never left you. God does not waste pain. Every tear will become a testimony. Every rejection will be a stage for divine acceptance. Every silence will become a prophetic voice that will echo far and wide. That is why you cannot give up now. You are on the threshold of a turning point that will not be small. It will be a turning point that will change the way you walk, speak, and think. It will be a turning point that will take you to places you never imagined. You are like an eagle. For a time, it was necessary to remain withdrawn, renewing your feathers, recovering your vision, strengthening your wings. And while others flew, You seemed still, but you were not still. You were being renewed. Now, the wind that once seemed against you will become the wind that propels you higher. Those who thought they buried you will realize that in fact you were a seed, and seeds, when buried, do not die. They bloom. The time to bloom has come. The time for change has come. And no one can stop what God has ordained for you. What seemed like the end was only the beginning. The wind that tried to knock you down will be the same wind that will lift you higher. Have you ever noticed how some doors close so definitively that it seems they'll never open again? You tried with all your might, but nothing happened. And in the silence you thought, is it over for me? Did I take the wrong path? But here's the revelation. It wasn't rejection, it was preservation. It wasn't forgetfulness, it was redirection. The doors that closed weren't meant to humiliate you, they were meant to protect you. And now, in this time, new doors are beginning to open. Doors you didn't force, doors you didn't manipulate, doors that don't depend on your influence, but on God's invisible favor over your life. This is how heaven works. It closes doors to free you from traps, and then it opens paths that no man can close. Divine favor needs no explanation. It's that promotion that arrives when your resume wasn't the most impressive. It's that invitation that appears without you having to campaign. It's that opportunity that finds you, even when you've given up looking. And when that happens, even those who tried to erase your name will have to admit, it was God. It had to be God. You won't need to justify yourself. You won't need to answer old accusations. You won't need to waste energy trying to prove your worth. Favor itself will be your answer. They will see. They will bear witness. Those who laughed at your silence will see that silence was heaven's strategy. Those who accused you will realize that the truth always has an expiration date. And when the right time comes, nothing can stop the revelation. Favor is not the fruit of human effort. It is the fruit of spiritual alignment. You were being molded, shaped, purified. Now you are ready to carry the weight of what you could not bear before. Remember, Joseph was rejected by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and unjustly imprisoned. But when God's favor manifested itself, in a single day he left prison and became governor of Egypt. So it will be with you. God doesn't need much time to change your story. He only needs the right time. And the right time is now. And when that favor arrives, you won't be able to deny it. You will feel the atmosphere change. People who previously ignored your name will begin to mention you with respect. No, opportunities that seemed unattainable will knock on your door. And the grace resting upon you will accomplish in days what you've tried for years. Isn't that fair? No, it's favor. Because favor isn't earned, it's a gift. And gifts can't be explained, they can only be received. You need to understand this. The favor that comes upon you now isn't just to open doors. It's to mark your life with a testimony. It's so that everyone knows that God's hand has been upon you all along. Those who tried to tear you down will see you standing tall, and they won't understand how. They won't understand why. But you will understand. It was favor. God's favor is opening doors no man can close. You will be lifted up before those who doubted, and no one will be able to deny God's hand on your life. You went through a time when your voice was stifled. No matter what you said, it seemed like no one listened. No matter how hard you tried to explain, it seemed like no one understood. It was as if every word you said was thrown into the wind, with no echo, no return, and it hurt. It hurt because you knew what you carried inside. You knew there were truths, revelations, dreams, and visions burning in your heart. But every time you tried to express them, the silence of others weighed more heavily than the sound of your own speech. They laughed at your faith. They belittled your dreams. They called illusion what was actually revelation. But listen, God never allowed your voice to be stifled forever. The silence wasn't punishment, it was preparation. He silenced the external noise so that you could learn to hear his voice within. And now, in this time of change, your voice will be restored, and it won't just be the voice of the sound that comes from your mouth. It will be the voice of your presence. It will be the voice of your life. It will be the voice of authority that comes from someone who has survived the process. There are people who speak loudly but carry no weight. There are people who shout but have no impact. And there are people who, with a few words, carry an entire atmosphere. You are being raised to be that person. The rejection you experienced was necessary to free you from the need for human approval. Now when you speak, you will no longer speak seeking acceptance. You will speak with the conviction of someone who has been accepted first by God. What was once a source of shame will now be a source of authority. Because every tear that fell has been recorded, every wound you carried has been shaped into healing, and every silence you endured will be converted into a prophetic voice that will echo beyond your wildest imagination. Your identity has been attacked. They tried to define who you were. They tried to stick labels that didn't belong to you. Failure, crazy, deluded, irrelevant. But heaven always knew your name. And when heaven calls your name, no human label can erase that voice. Now, the process is being fulfilled. You will no longer be seen as the rejected, but as the raised one. You will not be remembered as the forgotten one, but as the preserved one. You will not be counted as the discarded one, but as the chosen one. You didn't spend all this time just to survive. You spent this time to emerge. You spent this time to become a living testimony that God does not abandon those who trust in Him. And this restoration will not be silent. Just like Joseph, who was called before Pharaoh after years forgotten in prison, you will be called before places you never imagined. Your voice will echo at decision-making tables. Your presence will be remembered in moments of choice. And your story will be a reference that the impossible can happen. Those who tried to silence you will have to listen to you again. But this time it won't be you defending yourself. It will be God's own favor testifying through your life. Hear this. Your voice will be like a spiritual trumpet that awakens others. Your story will be like a key that unlocks prisons for many who still live in the same silence you endured. Your testimony will be like a fire that rekindles extinguished hearts. You don't just carry an experience, you carry a legacy. And legacies aren't built on easy days. Legacies are forged on nights of tears. They are confirmed in deserts of solitude. They are forged in battles where there seemed no way out. Now understand, you are no longer the same person who entered this process. You were broken, yes, but you were also rebuilt. You were diminished, yes, but you were also strengthened. You were silenced, yes, but now you will be multiplied. And when you open your mouth, your every word will carry the weight of eternity. They won't be just phrases. They will be decrees. They will be seeds planted in hearts. They will be rays of light in dark nights. Your identity is being restored, not just before men, but before yourself. Because before, you questioned yourself. Do I still have value? Am I still called? Is there still something in me? Now, you will look in the mirror and see not just scars, but crowns. You will see not just wounds, but scars of war that prove you survived. You will see not just who you were, but who you are becoming. You are not rejection. You are not silence. You are not pain. You are the chosen one whom God raised in silence to now manifest in power. And do not be surprised. What will happen to you won't just be for your personal satisfaction. It will impact generations. It will awaken others who were paralyzed by pain. It will prove that heaven still moves on earth. Your restored voice will generate new voices. Your restored identity will activate new identities. And everything you've suffered will now be fuel for everything you do. Will deliver. Your voice is being restored. Your identity is being lifted up. And nothing will be able to silence what God has decided to release through you. You endured the time of anonymity. You walked in silence while many stood out. You watched doors open for others while yours remained closed. And many times you thought, will anyone ever notice what I carry? Does all of this make sense? But listen, heaven has an exact time for everything. And when that time comes, not even opposition can stop it. When God decides to expose, no one can hide. When God decides to reveal, no one can erase. What you carry was not built on stages. It was forged in deserts. It was honed in tears. It was shaped in lonely nights. Therefore, when exposure comes, it will not be superficial. It will have weight. It will have authority. It will have impact. Your story is not ordinary. The path you have walked was not simple. You paid a high price that many never imagined, and this price now becomes testimony. Those who tried to bury you will see you blossom. Those who laughed at your silence will see you shine. Those who said it was the end will see you begin again, stronger, firmer, more intense. Heaven has decided it's time to raise what was hidden. And when heaven decides, even hell must watch, because nothing can stop God's will. You need to understand, it won't be you chasing recognition. It will be recognition chasing you. It won't be you asking for space. It will be space itself opening before you. It won't be you forcing doors. It will be God pushing down walls that once seemed insurmountable. And when that happens, there will be no denying it. Even those who dislike you will have to admit, there's something different about this person. It's not luck, it's purpose. It's not chance, it's destiny. The exposure won't come to inflate your ego. It will come to confirm your election. It won't come to put you on a pedestal. It will come to highlight the power of God that has always been in your life. Remember, David was anointed in secret, but the process led him to be recognized before an entire nation. First, he defeated the lion and the bear in secret. Then he defeated Goliath in front of everyone. The same will happen with you. What you overcame in silence will be witnessed in public. The internal wars you fought in tears will turn into public victories that no one can deny. And make no mistake, the recognition that will come will not be just in words. It will be in honor. It will be in open doors. It will be in unexpected invitations. It will be in places of influence you never imagined reaching. You will no longer need to shout to be heard. You will no longer need to justify yourself to be understood. God's own grace in your life will be the microphone that amplifies your voice. The time of being invisible is over. The time of being ignored is over. Now, heaven has decided you will be exposed. And this exposure will not come from human will, but from divine will. The same God who permitted silence now raises your voice before the crowds. The same God who permitted hiding now shines the spotlight on you. The same God who permitted rejection now prepares a table before your enemies. And this table will not be small. It will be wide, plentiful, full of testimonies. It will be a table of honor, where heaven itself places you as a living sign of what He can do. It will not be just an exhibition to showcase you. It will be an exhibition to showcase God within you. And when this happens, there will be no doubt. The silence was merely the harbinger of revelation. Heaven has decided to expose you. The time of anonymity is over, and now your life will be living evidence of God's glory before all. You were rejected. You were forgotten. You were humiliated in silence. But what heaven has prepared for you is not just exposure. It is honor. It is restitution. It is the multiplied return of all that seemed lost. Because what was stolen will not just be returned, it will be returned twofold. That which seemed destroyed will not just be restored. It will be rebuilt more beautifully, more solidly, more lastingly. God does not allow the desert without preparing Canaan. He does not allow the valley without preparing the mountain. He does not allow the night without preparing the dawn. And the dawn has come. The time of honor is before you. The tears no one saw will be transformed into public testimony. The no's you received will become stepping stones to the yeses that heaven has decreed upon your life. The doors that were closed with contempt will now open with honor. You need to understand, honor is not about being applauded. Honor is about being recognized by heaven and established before men. Honor is when what you carry finally finds its rightful place. Honor is when what seemed heavy becomes a crown. You've heard, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. You were that rejected stone, but now God Himself places you as the foundation, not to be discarded, but to support something greater than yourself. Restitution will come in ways you don't expect. Relationships that were unjustly severed will be replaced by divine connections. Lost time will be accelerated by grace. Opportunities that passed before you will return multiplied. Because when God decides to restore, He doesn't just return what was taken. He returns with interest. He returns with favor. He returns with signs that He made it. You will not be remembered for the falls you suffered. You will be remembered for the strength with which you rose. You will not be known for the rejection you faced. You will be known for the honor you now receive. It's not just about receiving things. It's about being positioned. It's about being established. It's about taking the place that was always destined for you. And when honor comes, it won't come from who you expect. Often it will come from those who tried to bury you. Often it will come from those who didn't believe in you. Because God likes to turn narratives around. He likes to show that he still has the final say. Just as Joseph was rejected by his brothers, thrown into prison, forgotten by those who promised to help him. But in due time, heaven placed him as governor, and those who rejected him had to come to him for sustenance. So it will be with you. Those who despised you will see you honored. Those who rejected you will see you established. Those who laughed at your silence will see you seated in places of influence. And it's not to humiliate anyone. It's to show that God has never abandoned you. It's to show that your life is a story written by the hands of heaven. You will not only be honored, you will be a channel of honor. You will not only be restored, you will be a living sign of restitution. Others will look at you and say, if God did it to him, he can do it to me too. And so, your story becomes a prophecy for many. What seemed like defeat becomes an example of victory. What seemed like loss becomes a testimony of restitution. What seemed forgotten becomes a stage of honor. Get ready. The time of honor has arrived. Get ready. Restitution has begun, and nothing and no one can stop it. The time of honor and restitution has arrived in your life. What was lost will be returned, multiplied, and your story will be a living testimony of God's faithfulness. You have gone through the time of waiting. You have known the weight of silence. You have felt the pain of rejection. You have walked in darkness, not knowing when dawn would come. But now time has changed. The clock in heaven has advanced. The season has turned. And when heaven decides to move, no delay can resist. No wall can remain standing. No door can remain closed. This is the time of acceleration. The time when things that took years will happen in days. The time when processes that seemed endless will suddenly conclude. The time when what seemed distant will become reality before your eyes. Because when God enters the scene, he does not need to follow the human calendar. He does not depend on earthly agendas. He is not limited by the conditions around him. When he says now, everything falls into place. Doors that once required effort will open with a gentle touch. Opportunities that seemed unattainable will come to you. Connections you never imagined will come your way without you having to chase them. And this won't be the result of your own strength. It will be the fruit of grace. It will be evidence of divine favor. It will be a sign that God himself is accelerating your journey. You may even look back and ask yourself, how did I get here so quickly? And the answer will be simple. It wasn't because of your speed. It was because the wind of the Spirit blew in your sails. You were prepared for this time. Silence shaped you. Rejection strengthened you. Waiting shaped you. And now heaven opens paths before you. Not just ordinary paths, but wide roads, avenues of opportunity, doors that multiply. You won't need to force. You won't need to beg. You won't need to compromise your essence to enter. Doors will open to your identity, to your faithfulness, to your perseverance. Just as Paul and Silas were imprisoned, but at midnight an earthquake opened the prisons and loosened their chains. So it will be with you. What seemed closed will open. What seemed locked will unlock. What seemed impossible will become inevitable. And when that happens, it will be clear that it was no human work. It will be evident that it was heaven. It will be undeniable that it was God. Prepare to be surprised. Prepare for unexpected invitations. Prepare for swift responses. Prepare for sudden movements that will change everything in a short time. And remember, acceleration is not just for you to arrive faster. It is for you to fulfill your purpose at the right time. It is for your life to be in tune with heaven's plan. It is for you to live not late, but in alignment. Heaven is saying, you are not late. You are in the exact time. And now that time moves in your favor. Now the doors respond to your call. Now the earth bows to heaven's decree over your life. This is the time of acceleration. Doors will open before you effortlessly. and divine favor will move your life forward at supernatural speed. You were shaped in silence. You were honed in darkness. You were tested in places where no one saw. But what heaven is releasing now is not secret. It is public. It is visible. It is undeniable. The time has come when God's favor will not just be something you feel within. It will be seen all around you. It will be perceived in the opportunities that open up. It will be witnessed in the places you reach. It will be commented on even by those who previously ignored you. You won't need to say anything. Your life will speak for you. The results that come will be like a living sermon. Open doors will be like luminous signs saying, "It was God who did it." Public favor is not about displaying achievements. It is about demonstrating faithfulness. It is about showing that the process was not in vain. It is about making it clear that those who trust in heaven are never ashamed. Just as Joseph did not need to prove his innocence, time has proven it. Just as Daniel didn't need to defend himself against those who accused him. The silent lion himself was his defense. So it will be with you. You will no longer need to fight to be believed. Favor itself will be your evidence. And when favor is public, it cannot be hidden. It transcends borders. It echoes in distant places. It draws the attention of even people you've never met. Prepare yourself, because your name will be mentioned in rooms you've never entered. Invitations will come from places you never imagined. Connections will be made in such surprising ways that you will realize it wasn't networking, it was purpose. And it won't be for your own exaltation. It will be for God's name to be glorified through your life. It will be for others to look at you and understand, if God did it with him, he can do it with me too. Public favor will come as reparation. Those who called you a failure will see the fruit of your faithfulness. Those who laughed at your silence will have to recognize the voice of heaven within you. Those who tried to bring you down will have to witness your rise. It's not revenge, it's divine justice. It's not a show, it's testimony. It's not chance, it's destiny. And this public testimony will also be the beginning of a new season. Because when God puts you in the spotlight, he also places responsibility on you. When he elevates you before everyone, it's because you are now ready to carry the weight of influence. You won't just be someone who survived. You'll be someone who inspires survivors. You won't just be someone who overcame. You'll be someone who becomes a beacon for those still struggling. Public favor is God's signature saying, "This is my vessel. I have refined it. I have tested it, and now I expose it." And no one can deny it. No one can erase it. No one can say it was luck. It will be so clear, so visible, so supernatural, that even unbelievers will have to say, "Only God could have done this." Public favor has come upon your life. Your story will be a living testimony before all, and no one will be able to deny the glory of God revealed in you. You are no longer the one who was rejected. You are no longer the one who was ignored. You are no longer the one who was wounded by silence. Now you are a living witness to heaven's victory. Now you are a mark of God's faithfulness. Now you are a sign that hope never fails. The scars remain with you, but now they don't hurt. They shine like medals of survival. Each mark tells a story. Each pain overcome has now become strength, and your identity has been restored. You are not defined by rejection. You are not defined by silence. You are not defined by attempts to tear you down. You are defined by the voice that called you before the foundation of the world. You are defined by the purpose that could never be erased. You are defined by the love that never stopped pursuing you. Now heaven declares over you, beloved son, living witness, eternal inheritance, a beacon for many. You passed through the pit but were not devoured. You walked through the fire but were not consumed. You walked through the valley but were not defeated. Now you rise as a warrior. Now you rise as a voice. Now you rise as a witness. Those who looked at you and saw weakness will now see strength. Those who looked at you and saw shame will now see honor. Those who looked at you and saw an end will now see a beginning. Because what God has done in you is final. What he has declared over you is irrevocable. What he has released into your life, no one can undo. You are a bearer of victory. You are a sign that the impossible can be reversed. You are living proof that heaven rules over all situations. Lift your head, take a deep breath. Feel the weight of glory that now rests upon you. Your story will not be remembered for your failures, but for your triumphs. You will not be remembered for your tears, but for the hope that shone through them. You will not be remembered for the closed doors, but for the doors that heaven opened effortlessly. And your identity now is not in doubt, not in wounds, not in opinions. It is grounded in eternal purpose. It is engraved on the unshakable rock. It is sealed by God Himself. You did not just win. You were transformed by victory. You did not just survive. You emerged stronger, more steadfast, more whole. And this proclamation does not come just from your lips. It comes from heaven itself. It is the Father saying before all, "This is my Son, in whom I am well pleased. This is my vessel, in whom I have displayed my glory." The victory is not just yours. It is a collective testimony. It is a proclamation that echoes beyond your lifetime. It is a story that will inspire generations. You are not a shadow of what they tried to make of you. You are the light of what God has decided in you. You are not the result of human hands. You are the fruit of the divine hand. And before all, heaven proclaims, you are victorious. You are restored. You are established. You are loved. Your identity has been restored. You are no longer what they tried to destroy you. You are what God raised to shine. Your victory is irrevocable and eternal. Nothing was by chance. Not the pain, not the silence, not the falls. Everything worked together for the moment you are in now. Everything was aligned so you could hear these words. Everything was prepared so your faith would be renewed and your identity restored. They tried to tear you down, but they couldn't. They tried to erase your voice, but the sky spoke for you. They tried to bury you, but they didn't know you were a seed. And the seed, when buried, doesn't die. It blossoms. It breaks through the earth. It grows toward the light. You were buried, but you were not destroyed. You were silenced, but you were not erased. You were rejected, but you were not forgotten. God raised you up in silence. God strengthened you in secret. God positioned you for such a time as this. Now, what was hidden becomes visible. Now what was small becomes great. Now what was a tear becomes a smile. Now what was a fall becomes a testimony. And this is just the beginning of a new journey, because the voice that lifted you up will continue to guide you, because the hand that held you up will continue to lead you, because the grace that covered you will continue to open paths before you. You are not alone. You never have been, and you never will be. The victory you carry now is also the password to inspire others. The hope that has been rekindled in you is also a light for those still in darkness. The glory that rests upon you is also a testimony to the nations. So, keep going, keep walking, keep believing, and never forget, if heaven has lifted you up once, heaven will continue to lift you up whenever you need it. This video wasn't just a message, it was an encounter. It was an answer. It was a sign. And if something burned within you, it's because the Spirit breathed upon your life. It's because the promise hasn't died. It's because the purpose still pulsates. You are a living testimony. You are heaven's inheritance. You are proof that nothing can stop what God has decided. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And continue your spiritual journey by choosing the next video that resonates with what heaven is already speaking to your heart.